Today I'm going to be teaching you how to make banana bread. For this recipe, you'll be needing 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cup of unsalted butter, 1 cup of brown sugar. It could be light brown sugar or just normal brown sugar, 2 eggs, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, and obviously the main ingredient, you'll be needing 3 to 6 overripe bananas. Having the bananas overripe is what's going to give the bread the sweetness that it has. First, you're going to be mixing your flour, baking soda, and salt. Also, make sure that your hands are clean before you do any cooking. Throughout the video, I will also be telling you some history and the backstory of why and how banana bread started. I finished mixing it and put it in this bowl, so now we're going to move on to the next step. Now we are going to mix our sugar and butter. Make sure that your butter is softened before you start mixing. You don't want it melted, you just want to soften. In the 1930s, 2 events occurred that elevated the banana. First, the Great Depression, which began with the 1929 stock market crash. Due to the stock market crash, every scrap of food became extremely precious. Once you've mixed it and it looks relatively like this, just like a big clump of butter and sugar, you're going to mix in your eggs and you're going to mix in your vanilla. Households were unwilling to throw away anything, even a quote-unquote rotten banana. And second, Royal and other baking powder / baking soda manufacturers began mass producing their products. Once your mixture looks like this, you're ready for the next step. It is going to look pretty gross until we add the flour, and then it'll start looking like normal. But for now, we are going to mix in the bananas. It will curdle, just a fair warning. After you mix in your bananas fully, you're going to start to gradually mix in the flour until you've added all of it. Also, make sure to preheat your oven to 450 degrees before you start mixing. Since manufacturers began mass producing their products, the chemical leaveners became widely available nationwide for the first time ever. Due to the desire to use overripe bananas paired with the available baking soda, it inspired cookbook writers to come up with recipes for banana quote-unquote quick bread as opposed to yeast bread. Now that you're done mixing, you're going to take one of these pans. It's just like one of these loaf pan type of things, right? It's glass, and what I'm going to do is butter it up. You can also use oil or spray it. But I'm just going to use some butter and take a little napkin and spread it around. Last but not least, before you start to bake it, you are going to get your mixture and you're going to pour it into your greased pan. By the early 1930s, banana bread recipes had become very universal. Once you've put your mixture into the pan, you're going to tap it down onto the counter a couple times just to make sure that there's no bubbles, like big bubbles, and it's just going to like settle it down. So depending on how many bananas you use and how big of a portion you made, that's just going to determine how long you have to bake it for. But it's usually around from 35 minutes to 60. I'm going to put mine into the oven and I'll see you once it's baked. To make sure that it's baked correctly and fully cooked, you can take a fork or a knife or whatever you want and stab the middle of the bread. And if it comes out clean, then that means it's done and you could take it out. Also, it's best to put your pan in the center of the oven while it's baking, to make sure that it's evenly cooked. I turned on the heat from 450 to 350 because it just seemed way too hot.